Hello to all my viewers from Angel Stellar's Designs. I am actually back here with a theme called Ocean Under the Stars Dreamcatcher. In this, we will be making a Dreamcatcher using some of the supplies from the Sophie and Toffee box we got in June. But before we move on to the tutorial, I would actually like to go ahead and take time in this video to announce the prize winner from the last video. Now, for this, I was actually wanting to announce it when I did the box reveal of the next month's box, but my box came late, and since I was just about to post this, I figured I would go ahead and show who the winner was. Now, I just went ahead and counted the comments, and I went over to my handy dandy app that I downloaded as a random number generator, and I set that up from the 0 to 99 to 0 and 13 for the 13 comments. Of course, there wasn't a 49, so I made sure that was correct, and it randomized number 8 for the winner. So number 8, you are the winner, and I will reply to your comment with details on how to receive your free gift. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. So back to the video screen, I wanted to show who the winner was. I clicked and scrolled down. I wanted to make sure it was fair, so I made sure it wasn't scrambled and it was in order. I went down from the first person that replied on my video, and I just counted my way up. And the person that I actually ended up landing on was Danielle. And Danielle wrote 1 week ago, "Not only does this tutorial make me even more sad I wasn't able to get the June box for my birthday, but it makes me wish I really knew how to use the sticks in my hair. This is an awesome, very detailed tutorial, and I love your nails too." So Danielle, I know you were really sad about not getting the box, but I hope that this makes you feel so much better because you are the grand winner. Just keep an eye out for my reply to your message, and I will let you know how to contact me with your information, and I will ship out your free gift. And that's pretty much all it takes, because this was a lot of fun and something I would like to do more as a thank you to you viewers. I will definitely be creating more little knickknacks to be sending out to you guys as you subscribe to my channel. So just a big thank you to everybody who participated, and don't worry, this is not the last one, and there will be more to come. And onward to the tutorial. So for this, I actually got the idea from the subscription box itself's title. And in that title, I thought of this really cool, like, nautical looking Dreamcatcher with the waterfall underneath and an ocean scene in the Dreamcatcher itself and the stars hanging in the top. So in this tutorial, I will show you every detailed step on how I did this process. This did take about 4 or 5-ish days for me to create. And like I said, it'll be detailed. I'll show you all the stuff I put in there, but for the most part I used what was in the box from Sophie and Toffee, and I just did a few added other details from the craft store that you can get anywhere. So to all my viewers, I just wanted to kind of let you know that it's been kind of a struggle for me lately. I ended up losing my baby ringneck parrot, who just meant everything to me in the world. So in editing this video, it has been an extreme struggle for me to see him and just not have that presence around me. I truly am just brokenhearted with him not here. But you guys have been so positive, and I just let that push me on and just really help me move forward into editing this video for you guys, because I just really do appreciate, and I love you guys. You guys have made this such an amazing experience for me, and I just wanted to say thank you for helping me through. Now, Hoshi's name translated to Little Star. I chose that name because I wanted him to know that I picked him out of the millions of animals I could have had. He was 6 months and 14 days old, and in that time he was just the little pure love that changed my life. His life did end tragically and unexpectedly, and there was nothing anybody could have done. In the end, I'm just very sorry his time was so short, and my heart aches with just him not being in my every moment. He truly did brighten up my day, and I will never forget our good memories that just still melt my heart so deeply. I will always love him from this life and on, and I just wish now that he rests among the stars and knows that he will always be my sweet little soul. Unfortunately, when something this painful happens, we end up having to say goodbye sooner than we want and having to move on with life and carry that pain that just still hurts us. So I just, again, want to let you guys know how much that I am truly grateful for y'all's support and just the positivity that you have given me to just help me be strong and move forward through the process. So thank you, everybody. Now let's start with the project. Here we have 3 metal rings. These are commonly found in the craft section of stores pertaining with leatherwork and feathers. Here, the small one is 8 inches. I paid $1.17 for. And the large ones were like $2, and those are about 16 inches, like 15, 16 inches. And then here I have yarn. This was just any kind. It's just an acrylic cotton blend. I just grabbed whatever was cheap and had the prettiest colors. Also, you only need 1 ball of yarn for this project if it's about as good size as this one, like a little bigger than your hand. So, starting off first, I cut about 12-inch strands, and I'm going to use these to tie the hoops in place. Now, I wanted mine to do like a lantern effect with this 3D feature, so I tied it in the shape of like a plus sign. Don't worry too much about the wiggling of the hoops, just do your best to get the knot on there first. The more you tie on later on, the better it's going to hold in place. So as you see, I'm just going around and just really securing both directions of it and just looping around the string to tie it in the final knot, which I did a couple times. Once you do that, make sure you flip it over and do the other side as well. So here you can see our 3D Dreamcatcher already starting to come into form and shape. And now we're going to attach the 8-inch ring on the bottom. And we're going to do the 4 corners for this one as well. Now I went ahead and did 3 of the sides, but I just really wanted to show you one more time how to do this, and this is where you see me going back and forth with the strings on either direction and then tying it off. Once done with that, make sure you cut off your ends that are extra from tying off on the Dreamcatcher, and then retie on the top of your Dreamcatcher away from your 8-inch ring your yarn ball. In this process, we're going to wrap around and around and around in a spiral of on the metal bar of our Dreamcatcher, and this is going to cover up all the silver, which will help us later on give a more decorative look to our design. So here you see where I've done one side. I ended up having to do a lot, and this was time consuming because I chose thin yarn. So if you want to cut on this process, just really make sure that you pick a thicker yarn. Another thing is I'm using a hair stick, and I'm going to go through and show different methods on how you can carry the yarn into decorating. Now in this diagram I'm showing the 2 rings I drew out for you because I really want to show the direction that I'm going to go in for wrapping all of this with 1 string. So I'm going to circle all the conjoining parts where there are knots that we tied off for the rings. And then I'm going to follow through with the guidelines on how to wrap in the direction. So we're going to start off from the top where you saw me do the one side. And we're going to go all the way down to the conjoined bottom. Then continue on to the very bottom. And this we're going to go to the very next, which can be your right, your left, but we're going to go to the next loop. And then follow through on the one on the outside of that as well. So we're just going to the next outside ring, the next outside ring. When you get to the very last, only go up to the conjoining joint of where the 8-inch ring is. Then go around the full complete circle, and this will help cover up that center ring. Once you go all the way around that, then you're going to follow through and go straight up and continue on that 4th outer ring, and you will fully have covered the Dreamcatcher with all the wrapping and coverage. So I hope this is like pretty easy to kind of break down and visually see. Just follow through. Again, you're going to go down the one side, then go to the one exactly next to it, then the one next to that. You're going to go through the ring, on the bottom after going through the quarter, and then finishing up that side. So I hope this helps. Now back to the picture. I want to slowly show you how I wrap, and this is the way I'm securing off even further the joints and kind of blending in more with the wrapping that I'm doing, because I'm pulling really tight at this point, you know, the yarn that I'm wrapping with, just to really kind of flatten down the knots that we tied and make it more blended in. So if you want to do this, that's great. If you want to skip it and just wrap around it, that's fine as well. This was just something I found that kind of just helped blend everything together, like I said. So I'm just going up and down, and like I said, this is time consuming, so you can just put on a TV show, do something fun, listen to music, and just kind of let that help you make time go by faster as you work on this, because this is really where a lot of my time's spent. And of course, my sweet little helper wanted to join in and say hi to you guys, as well as helping mommy do this craft. So we're just going up and down, as I told you, and just wrapping through. Later on, you will see another method that I used instead of a hair stick, and it actually ended up being my favorite way, which was using a popsicle stick. It was flat, and it kind of helped me maneuver a little more, and I was able to put more on the string. So whatever you guys want and whatever works best for you, definitely try experimenting and figure out what you're best comfortable with. For me personally, like I said, I like the popsicle stick, but everybody's different and we all have our particulars when we work, and you'll learn that when you do experiment. So in this short clip, I'm actually going to show you the other way of doing the string for wrapping or using for weaving the Dreamcatcher. I'm just taking the yarn and I'm wrapping around my finger until it's thick enough to work with. Definitely be careful because you don't want to cut off circulation. And then use that little wad and go on this middle of it and wrap the yarn. The idea of point of this is to make a little ball. So you want to kind of keep going until it starts shaping like a little ball. So here you see me with the ball that I've made by wrapping it up with the yarn. It's kind of thick, but it's still small and squishy. And I just go around the metal bar over and over and over until I cover it. So just remember, up and over to help hold it in place as the string unravels. Just take a hair tie and at a certain distance of string that's out, you know, put the hair tie on the ball and it holds it in place while you work with that little strand of string that you selected. So just keep doing this until you cover it, and we'll move on to the next step once done. Now that we got the whole Dreamcatcher wrapped, which looks awesome, as you can tell, it's really starting to come together. Remember that hair tie I told you about? Take that, and don't forget to tie a knot at the end. Mine kind of stretched out, but once you tie the knot, then take the hair tie and cover the ball, and you could just let that hang while we start creating the center masterpiece. So for this, here are some of the supplies I use. I got sand, which this one was $2.99, and it's like, I want to say 1.5 pounds of sand. And this comes in different colors, which I ended up with black, pink, blue, and white, and I just chose white because there was a lot of colors going on and I didn't want to take away from it. I have next a little basket. It was like $2.99 of seashells, and I really like some of the colors in there that just popped, and so I wanted to get a few of those. Then we have the molds from Sophie and Toffee, which I would be using both. And then we have the mold that I designed and created in my crystal globe video, and this has coral pieces in it, so I'll be using these as well. And here are some of the coral chunks that I've made in it with resin. And then I have from eBay a little 99-cent pack of pearls, which I got these and didn't know they would come in time, but it was actually cool that I got them. And a Christmas ornament that I found at the craft store with the sand and seashells. Also, you don't want to forget, you're going to need like pony beads and feathers for this project. The feathers I used were called fancy feathers, and they gave you 10 pieces, so it was like 2 of each color, and it was $3.99 for a pack. I really liked that these had glitter and had personalities, so I picked them out, especially because of the colors. And maybe a pack of bottles. This one I used a coupon on, but it was $6.99 and it gave me 8 bottles, and I just picked one for the project. But now let's begin. This glitter I ended up getting at Michael's. It just really looked mermaid-like with the 6 colors, and they're chunky glitters, they're very iridescent and beautiful, and I was like, this is perfect for the project. And then here are the mixing cups. I ended up ordering these before Sophie and Toffee revealed that they were giving us one, but I ended up getting like 6 of them to use in this project video. But these are really nice. They're super durable and flexy and strong. They're even for the most part bird proof if you can stop them in time. But yeah, I just got enough to work with this project since I'm going to be using about 6 colors. And then I have the coral mold that I'm going to use for any runoff that I have, if I have any left over. And then this is white chunky glitter that I got from the craft store that I'll be using for my moon. Oh, and I can't forget, I'm using the Sun Mini UV nail lamp that we got in the Sophie and Toffee box as well. I had to change the cable because my little baby parrot ate the cable, so I got a metal durable one. This UV lamp really does come in handy, and I really do like it. Next, we're going to grab our 25-gram UV resin clear thin type from our Sophie and Toffee box. Just apply a thin layer of clear resin to the moon mold. Make sure you get out all the bubbles and just smooth the resin so it sits in the cab very nicely. And once you're happy with the way it looks, just cure it and let it dry fully. Next, we're going to prepare the color of the moon mixture with the white glitter, resin, and any other glitters that you want to add to it. Make sure you mix this very well and thoroughly. I edited mine, but you'll see that I just really scraped the sides and the bottoms to make sure that every bit was covered. Now, because I like how I make everything glow, I'm going to get my handy dandy glow powder that I got from eBay, and I'm going to add a little to the mixture. Now, this stuff is really potent and goes a long way, so you only need a little bit. So here's what my mixture looks like, and I'm very happy with it, so I want to go ahead and move on to the next step, which is filling in the moon cavity. For this part, I did switch to a popsicle stick because of how thick the resin got with all the glitter and stuff in it, and just to kind of help flatten it a little bit for curing. So while that sits, I want to go ahead and prep for the next step, which is setting out the 5 cups with the different colors I'm going to use to make the stars that are going to hang in the Dreamcatcher and any other decor items that I want. And don't forget, as soon as your moon is done, to use the scrap resin you have left from your white and fasten on an eye pin from the Sophie and Toffee box and cure that so that you have a bezel to work with when you pop your moon out. So here's how sparkly and beautiful the moon turned out and looked. Now I want to add a little extra flair to mine, so you'll see I pulled the charms from the Sophie and Toffee subscription box, and I'll follow through with decorating with gemstones and everything on the moon to just really give it that beautiful look that I wanted it to have. See how beautiful it turned out? I absolutely adore it. So for now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to move on to more of the decorations and the stars that are going to hang. So first I start out with the same concept as the moon, and I apply the clear resin, the thin type, to the molds, both the shells, the starfish, and the star, and I cure that first before continuing on with the colors. For the mixtures above, all I did was put glitter in there. There's no dye, and I just put resin because I just really wanted it to be translucent. That way you can see all the glitter in the mixture itself. Now for this technique, there's not really a special way you have to do it. I'm just taking a little bit on each popsicle stick and making sure that my mold stays clean in the process as well. And I'm just putting a dab of a little bit of every color into the mixture so I could just really pull that rainbow effect, because I really wanted to bring in more of the colors in the Dreamcatcher and not overwhelm it with so much blue, since I already know I'm going to be building an ocean scene in the bottom of it. So for this part, again, let your creativity fly and just really have fun with it and see what you can design and create with your colors and your molds. And here are some of the colors and look that I got with mixing all of them together. So now I'm going to set that aside for later in the video, and I want to move on to the process of making the ocean scene in the Dreamcatcher. As you see, I first started off using regular packing tape, and I just crisscrossed it like an X in the Dreamcatcher to cover the base of the 8-inch hoop. That way I have something to hold the resin while I put it in there to cure and build the base. So once the tape is on there, I just put a little bit of resin from the center and worked the Dreamcatcher around so that it spread the resin into a place that I liked it, and I cured it. And I just kept doing that until I filled all 4 corners with resin. Feel free in this process to use a popsicle stick or anything to help spread the resin around. Remember, this is going to be the base that we build on for our ocean scene, so it doesn't have to be super thick. Once the whole base is covered with clear resin, I moved on to attaching the centerpiece. That way anything else that I did for decoration on the ocean scene helped reinforce and hold the coral piece that I chose as my centerpiece. Now next, I just mixed a little bit of sand with resin, and I actually ended up putting some glow-in-the-dark pigment in with it as well. And I just took a popsicle stick and I spread it out as smoothly as I could and thin into the base of where the little beach would be in my Dreamcatcher. And when I was working, I actually found out that when spreading it out, the sand had weight in the resin and would re-flatten out any ripples or any indents that I did with the popsicle stick. So if in a tip and advice, just let the sand sit before you cure it, and you'll take away any lines that you don't like and kind of give it more of a smoother beach look. Also, I forgot to mention that I added glitter into my sand, and this turned out really, really pretty. I put sand on it afterwards to give it texture. If you're going to add glitter in there though, I wouldn't sprinkle sand on top, but if you don't put glitter in there, go for it and sprinkle sand on top to give it that texture of a beach. But this is optional to your creativity. So next here I just grabbed some pigment dyes for resin from the past of Sophie and Toffee boxes, and I just kind of concocted my own look for what I wanted my water to be on the inside that goes around the beach. And here you'll just see the colors that I randomly picked up and mixed and made the beautiful iridescent streaky water that I did. Now the powder I'm using that you see is called a Pearl Eggs, and I tend to find these next to the clay in any craft stores. Once you have your water mix ready, just pour a little bit onto the surface of your Dreamcatcher where you want the water to be. I used a tool to spread mine out, and then you want to take clear resin and put droplets on the blue of the water to pull this effect off. Once you have your base made and it's strong enough to be on its own, you want to flip the Dreamcatcher over and you want to go ahead and pull the tape off the back. That way any further work that you do does not interfere, stick to the tape, and then you can't get it off. So just go ahead and rip that sucker off and throw it away. Once the tape is off, just give a little cure to make sure nothing was missed and nothing sticky, and then flip your Dreamcatcher over and go ahead and start decorating in any way you want, with anything you want, your little beach scene for your Dreamcatcher. So again, have fun with it, be creative, and really just express yourself in this project, because this is where I found a lot of fun in doing. So some of the supplies that I use are the raw shells that I bought, the sequins from our last Sophie and Toffee box, and then when I got the pearls I got online, and here are all the resin pieces that I made earlier with the different colors, and the moon. And I just used a little bit of everything and pretty much just randomly put it everywhere and made this beautiful concoction of a beach scene for my Dreamcatcher. And here is the aftermath of my craziness with all the elements I used to pull this underwater treasure beach scene for my Dreamcatcher. So what do you guys think? Looks pretty cool? So from here we're going to move on to wrapping the Dreamcatcher. So we're back to my little handy dandy diagram, and I'm going to circle and point out the joints again so you don't forget. Now for this concept we only have to worry about the top and bottom. We don't have to worry about where the 8-inch ring is in the bottom. And now you're just going to take the yarn ball that you had on top and you're going to go under the bar, which I'll show you. And you're just gonna loop them through and just spiral the yarn in little loops from where you entered and loop out through it to kind of lock it in place. So this is really similar to when we did the wrapping around the Dreamcatcher. It's the same concept of looping. This one you just want them to cross into each other, and you just continue doing that until you go all the way down. You don't worry about the 8-inch ring in the bottom, and you just continue looping and looping and looping until you get to whatever look you want for the Dreamcatcher on that side. And once you're happy with that, you just tie a knot and tie it off on one of the joints of one of your past loop areas, and you just go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Now when doing the other side, because you cut the string off from the center of your design for the one side that you did, you're just going to take that, retie to the top with the yarn ball, and you're just going to continue looping and follow the same steps. When you are going in, what I missed to explain is you're going to be looping in between the areas from the previous loops that you did. So it's kind of staggering where you do. So in this, where you moved on and seeing the real life version of this process, you'll see me doing it at a distance. The wider your distance, the looser it'll tend to be your Dreamcatcher. So I did mine, I used my hands a lot as a measurement reference. So I just used my hands and measured out like 3 fingers worth and just follow this process over and over until you get the desired Dreamcatcher look that you want. Now, if you need to, feel free to rewind the video to kind of get the concept down before you begin, because this can be a little tricky, but I promise you once you have it, you'll know it like the back of your hand and it'll be easier. If you are using the ball technique for this, which I do later in the video, switch to a popsicle stick, just tie a hair tie around it and it will help you hold the yarn again where you need it to be, so you only have a small distance to work with, so it's not unraveling while you're doing what you got to do to make the Dreamcatcher. And again, don't forget, we are not focusing at all on the 8-inch ring that is in the middle of the Dreamcatcher. We're going completely around it. Mine actually ended up landing exactly in the measurements that I did, which was pretty cool. It was unintentional and I just kind of went with it. And this, also be careful, you don't want to mess with the beach seam that you did on the bottom. So the ball was squishy when I was working with it, so I was able to get it through, but it still was a little difficult, and that's why I switched to something thinner passing through the loops, and that's when the popsicle stick idea came in handy. So here you see I've already switched to the popsicle stick, and I'm just finishing up the last bits of the Dreamcatcher and the design that I was going for. I actually ended up just leaving the window open so that you could see some of the details on the inside. I really liked this effect, and it just kind of really pulled through with the lantern look that I was going for. And once I get to the top here, you will see I would just find one of the little indents that I have, which I call a notch, and I just thread it through and I just tie a knot and clip the end, and that's the finish of one side. And the reason why I left the string long as well is because later we're going to go back and we're going to put beads and decorations on our little fringe piece here. And here you will see that I have the one side finish, and you would just do the same process that we did here on all the other sides. So remember, tie the yarn on the top and just work your way around just like you did on this one. Cut the string and go to the next right or left, whichever side you went with, and do the same thing until all 4 windows of the Dreamcatcher are full with the Dreamcatcher weaving. As a tip for making this kind of Dreamcatcher, you can weave on the lines that you've made on one of the sides and go in between that to use it as guidelines for making the Dreamcatcher on the other side as well. So right in the triangle of the little line that you see on the bar for the Dreamcatcher on the other side, you can take and you can just weave the yarn right through and do the Dreamcatcher and use those as little markers to just make the one on the other side so that you're not constantly measuring. So here you just see the finishing touch of doing all four sides, and you'll see as I spin it how every triangle that I've made and doing the loops, they all connect together on the same markings that I did. So what do you guys think so far? Has this been a pretty cool concept for you guys to try for yourself? What other themes would you do when making a Dreamcatcher? So good news, we're actually almost done. We are down to decorating the tassels. Here you see that I got the pony beads that I said we would need. I chose these because they're fun, they're colorful, and they have the big holes that we need for the yarn. And I just twist as best I could on the ends, and I just slide the beads on in whatever pattern I like. And I use the stars that I've made in the mold from Sophie and Toffee, and I put the stars on there as if the ocean was under the night sky. For this, once it's on there, as you see, just tie a knot, and I go in with clear quick dry nail polish and I just go over the yarn and let that dry so it just locks it in and you don't have to worry about losing your little decoration piece. Once you're done with the stars, then you're going to move on to a piece of yarn. You're just going to do the same concept with the moon in the center. You're going to string up some beads. You're going to tie your moon at the end of the yarn string and tie that off. Once it's tied off, you're going to take the quick dry nail polish that's clear. You're going to paint over the knot real quick to lock it in. And then if you do have problems threading through the yarn, just fold up a piece of fishing wire or something, or wire, and just use it like a needle threader to help get it through. I had to do that in this case for the moon. And once it's done, I cut about 8 inches of the yarn, and I just went in between the two rings and the top of the Dreamcatcher, and I tied off a knot where the moon would hang. For this, you do have to insert your hands into the Dreamcatcher itself and go around the Dreamcatcher crisscross area on the top and then tie it off. Once that is done and secured, we are going to move on to making the loop that goes on top of the Dreamcatcher so that you can hang it anywhere you want. And this, I just took about 3 24-inch strings. I folded them in half so that they were 12-inch in length. But I just braided these strings together and just made a cute little braided hanger for the Dreamcatcher, and you could just see this process is very simple. Now we're into the last phase of the Dreamcatcher. Now this is optional. You don't have to put tassels on the bottom of it, but if you do, go ahead and just continue watching the rest of this video. What I did is I cut 40-inch yarn strands and I folded them in half each strand so that it did a loop on top at 20 inches, and I just took that and looped it onto the bottom of the Dreamcatcher. For me, I wanted to go with a waterfall effect, so you'll see that I filled the whole crisscross bottom of the Dreamcatcher, and you'll see that I slow-moed and showed you how to do this process. If you can't get your fingers in through the bottom, feel free to use tweezers or pliers or whatever to help you grab the yarn. This took a lot of strands, so I didn't count, so you're just going to have to wing it and measure it and just go with it. You might even need help cutting all these strands, which in my case I was lucky and I did. But if you want to experiment with different lengths of the yarns and the look that you want on the bottom, feel free to do different measurements and kind of see what you come out with. You don't have to do at the measurement that I did mine at. So here's what it looked like once I finished all the tassels on the bottom. Now I wanted to go in and add in some feathers and beadwork too to this to really pull together the beadwork that I've put in the top. I didn't want the bottom to be plain, so I got the pony beads and the fancy feathers that were glittery, and I just selected which colors I wanted and which beads I wanted. And you'll see that I go through the process of using the fishing wire to help thread on the beads. I slide the feather itself up into the beads. If you have a problem sliding the feather in on the quill part of the feather, kind of cut it just a little to make it skinnier, and that way it'll fit and slide in. And I didn't glue mine in. You can hot glue yours in if you wanted. I just tied a knot around it just to hold it up, and it's been working just fine like that. So it's either or, that's optional. Once all your feathers and beads are on and decorations, you're all done and ready to enjoy your new 3D Dreamcatcher.